Military analysts are increasingly convinced that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is not a matter of if, but when. Whether in 2025 or 2027, the signs are converging. The CCP has gone so far as to build replica Taiwanese cities for soldiers to rehearse the assault. The U.S. and its allies have contingency plans. But one critical piece is often left out of the conversation: what Taiwan itself plans to do. Because Taiwan isn't planning to sit quietly. Experts suggest Taiwan has options so devastating they could cripple China and affect 400 million of its citizens within hours. Here's how it might all unfold. Dinta, gray zone warfare, China's preferred opening move. China has already been escalating its aggression, and it's doing so through a strategy military experts call gray zone warfare, a campaign of pressure, intimidation, and provocation that stops just short of open conflict. This isn't a new playbook. China used it to seize Scarborough Shoal from the Philippines in 2012, built military installations on 7 coral reefs in the Spratly Islands between 2013 and 2015, and has systematically pushed against the borders of nearly every neighboring country. The results have been remarkable. China has expanded its territory without firing a single official shot. Now it's turning that same strategy toward Taiwan. And to understand why, you need to look beyond the main island. Taiwan isn't just one island. It includes Matsu, Kinmen, Penghu, Pratas, Lanyu, Taiping, and Wukyu. Kinmen sits just 6 kilometers from mainland China. Matsu is only 9 kilometers from Fujian province. These outlying islands are the centerpiece of China's strategy. The CCP wants reunification, but it desperately wants to avoid direct confrontation. For 2 reasons. First, an overt attack on Taiwan would almost certainly trigger U.S. military intervention and sweeping sanctions. Second, China is still dealing with the aftermath of its real estate crisis and the economic scars of COVID-19. The ideal outcome for Beijing is a swift, low-damage takeover, ideally one where Taiwan surrenders without a single shot being fired. The blockade scenario. Military planners believe the most likely opening move isn't an all-out invasion, but a slow, calculated blockade. One designed to bring Taiwan to the negotiating table while making it difficult for the U.S. and allies to justify military intervention. After all, blockading islands is not the same as launching a war. Here's how it would likely unfold. China encircles the Kinmen and Matsu Islands with naval ships, submarines, sand dredgers, fishing vessels, and paramilitary ships. PLA fighter jets begin patrolling the Taiwan Strait around the clock. Taiwan is warned that any aircraft or warship crossing the median line will be attacked. All commercial flights and ferry services to the island groups are suspended unless cleared by Chinese air traffic control. The Taiwanese Coast Guard, vastly outnumbered, is quickly isolated. This is not just a military pressure campaign, it's a humanitarian crisis in the making. Matsu is home to roughly 14,000 people. Kinmen has around 140,000. Their lives are now directly at risk, and the public pressure on Taipei to act would be immense. This is precisely what China is counting on. It wants Taiwan to panic, to make hasty decisions, and to come to the table before the Americans can mobilize. It's worth noting that China has done this before. In 1954, 55, and again in 1958, the PLA bombarded these very same islands. Both times, the U.S. deployed naval forces and supplied Taiwan with weapons. But this time, China would make the situation far more ambiguous, blurring the line between aggression and diplomacy to slow any American response. Taiwan faces 2 choices: surrender and begin unification talks, or fight back and attempt to break the blockade militarily. If it surrenders, China achieves its goal without war, but Taiwan, true to its history, chooses to fight. Taiwan strikes back and gets overwhelmed. Taiwan dispatches warships and fighter jets to confront the Chinese forces, but the numbers are staggering. China's defense budget is 12 times Taiwan's. China fields nearly 7 times more fighter aircraft, 17 times more submarines, 9 times more destroyers, and 10 times more ground troops. Taiwan's forces are rapidly overpowered. Taiwan urgently appeals to the U.S. and its allies for help. The U.S. responds by imposing economic sanctions on Beijing and accelerating weapons deliveries. F-16 fighters, long-range anti-ship missiles, tanks, smart mines, and attack helicopters. Japan begins moving Army and Navy units toward its southern islands in preparation for a possible amphibious response. China, watching this unfold, knows it's running out of time. It escalates. The PLA begins directly attacking military headquarters, barracks, and key infrastructure on Kinmen and Matsu. Still, Taiwan refuses to yield. Its military launches missile strikes on Chinese ships and aircraft, fires surface-to-air missiles at PLA planes, and sends fighter jets after Chinese bombers. The response is fierce, but ultimately insufficient. The islands fall. U.S. and Japanese naval forces begin moving toward Taiwan. China warns them to stay back, predicting, correctly, that neither Washington nor Tokyo will risk a major war over a few small islands. The American and Japanese ships hold back from directly attacking Chinese forces, but the U.S. continues flooding Taiwan with advanced weaponry and military advisors. The quarantine tightens. With Taiwan still refusing unification talks, China escalates to its next phase, a full maritime and air quarantine. Every approach to Taiwan is now blocked. China also declares an air defense identification zone over Taiwan. Any aircraft entering without PLA approval will be fired upon. All shipping companies and airlines are ordered to obtain Beijing's clearance before entering or leaving Taiwan's airspace or ports. Ships heading to Taiwan are stopped and searched. Only basic food and energy supplies are permitted through the cordon. Taiwan attempts to break the blockade with warships and missiles, briefly weakening Chinese positions, but is overpowered again. China responds by tightening the blockade further, restricting even humanitarian supplies and conditioning their resumption on Taiwan, agreeing to unification talks. Taiwan declines, again. Now China moves to its most insidious weapon, one that requires no missiles at all. China cuts Taiwan's 14 submarine internet cables. Taiwan relies on these cables for 95% of its data and voice communications. A 2006 earthquake off southern Taiwan that severed just 9 cables disrupted Southeast Asian internet and financial communications for up to 7 weeks. Cutting all of Taiwan's cables would plunge the island, and critically, its military, into near-total communications blackout. Civilian life would be paralyzed. Coordination between military units would collapse. But Taiwan isn't finished yet. Its oil reserves can sustain the island for 138 days. It's self-sufficient in rice, pork, and vegetables, and U.S. and Japanese forces are finally moving in to break the blockade. Here's Taiwan's nuclear option, the Three Gorges Dam. Here is where Taiwan's most extreme and most debated card comes into play. Roughly 1,200 kilometers from Taiwan sits the Three Gorges Dam, the largest dam in the world. It holds approximately 40 billion cubic meters of water, enough to fill 16 million Olympic swimming pools. Destroying it would unleash catastrophic flooding downstream, directly threatening the lives of more than 400 million people. The idea of striking the dam has been discussed in Taiwanese strategic circles since the early 1990s. Some analysts claim as few as 2 missiles could breach it. The historical precedent exists. During World War II, the British RAF's Operation Chastise successfully destroyed 3 major dams in Germany's industrial Ruhr Valley in 1943. Flooding a 65-kilometer stretch and delivering a significant blow to German morale and war production. Taiwan's weapon of choice for this mission would be the Yunfeng supersonic cruise missile, which has a range of approximately 1,200 kilometers. essentially the exact distance to the dam. Its improved variant reportedly extends to 2,000 kilometers. More critically, it travels at Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound, meaning it would reach the dam in under 20 minutes, making interception extremely difficult. China claims the dam can withstand even a tactical nuclear strike. It has ringed the dam with anti-air and anti-surface missiles, plus a regional missile defense shield. These claims may be partially true, but the threat alone carries massive psychological and strategic weight. Of course, destroying the dam would come at enormous cost to Taiwan. The international community would likely classify it as a war crime. Diplomatic support from U.S. allies would evaporate. Global sympathy would shift to China, making military intervention far harder to justify. The war goes global. Back in the main scenario, U.S. and Japanese forces begin attacking Chinese ships, enforcing the blockade. Significant damage is inflicted. But China has home field advantage. Its air defense systems and anti-ship missiles blunt the Allied assault and prevent the blockade from being fully broken. The U.S. responds with its own strategic chokehold, blocking the Malacca Strait, through which 70% of China's oil and 60% of its trade flows. It's a crippling blow, but not a fatal one. Russia, China's top oil supplier since 2023, can partially compensate for the energy loss. China, cornered and furious, launches massive strikes on Taiwan's military and civilian infrastructure. Airfields, ports, radar systems, power grids, government buildings, communication networks, and naval bases. The goal is to destroy Taiwan's will to fight before a full-scale American response arrives. Taiwan retaliates with its own long-range ballistic and cruise missiles, targeting Chinese air bases, radar installations, and command centers. Then China commits to the ultimate gamble, the largest amphibious and airborne invasion in history. PLA transport aircraft and helicopters descend on Taiwan, targeting airfields, ports, and government buildings. Simultaneously, China strikes U.S. bases in Guam and Japan to degrade the American response. Within hours, East Asia is at war. Global stock markets collapse. Manufacturers flee both China and Taiwan. The conflict threatens to spiral toward nuclear escalation between the world's two most heavily armed powers. Narrars, why the whole world should care. Whatever the outcome, the global consequences are devastating. Taiwan is home to TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, which produces 92% of the world's most advanced chips. A conflict engulfing Taiwan would trigger an unprecedented semiconductor shortage. Tech and automotive industries would collapse. Prices would skyrocket. Supply chains built over decades would disintegrate overnight. The entire global economy would feel it. In the end, the conflict over Taiwan is a reminder that in the modern world, no war stays local. The old wisdom has never been more relevant. War is a game where the only winning move is not to play,